The restaurant was built to swallow sound. High ceilings that stretched like a cathedral, marble floors that reflected the golden chandeliers in fractured, expensive light. It was the kind of place where silence had weight, where every clink of silverware was a performance, where wealth didn't just walk through the door. It owned the oxygen in the room. Khaliam Moore had learned to move through that silence like a ghost. She approached table 12 with the same poised, bone-deep professionalism she'd carried through 6 years of double shifts. Her light blue uniform crisp against her dark apron, her hair pulled back into a sleek, practical ponytail. Her notepad and pen were ready. Her expression was a mask of professional neutrality. But the woman seated at the table didn't look up. Linda's eyes, cold, calculating, framed by perfectly styled dark hair, dropped instead to Khaliam's feet. Her gaze lingered there for 3 full seconds, then traveled upward with the slow, deliberate cruelty of someone who knew how to make a moment last. Then she made a sound. Not a word. Not even a scoff. A noise, sharp, wet, disgusted, that cut through the cathedral quiet like a blade. The man across from her, Sam Cooke, didn't even bother to look up. He sat in his sharp black mafia suit, white collar gleaming, bored and brutal, like watching someone squirm was just part of the dinner service. His presence took up space the way a storm cloud does, silent, oppressive, inevitable. Linda leaned back in her emerald green dress, the sharp V-neckline framing her throat like armor, and her lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Such worn-out shoes," she said in English, her voice soft and sweet and venomous. "Do they not pay you enough here to buy new ones? Or do you just not care?" The air in the room didn't freeze. It shattered. Subscribe to see how this unfolds and comment where you're watching from. I will love to say hello to you. Chapter 1. The Predator's Table. Khaliam's hand tightened imperceptibly around her pen. Her face remained still. Her voice, when it came, was steady, professional, stripped of everything except competence. "Good evening. May I start you with some water, or would you prefer to see our wine list first?" Sam Cooke finally looked up. He had the kind of face that photographs well and terrifies in person. Sharp cheekbones, eyes that glittered with casual cruelty. The sort of man who'd learned early that power wasn't earned, it was taken. His suit was bespoke, his watch worth more than Khaliam's car, and his smile was a weapon he knew exactly how to wield. He placed both hands flat on the white tablecloth, fingers spread wide like he was claiming territory. "Water," he said, drawing the word out like he was tasting it. "Yes. But first," he shifted in his seat, rocking slightly. "This table. It wobbles." Khaliam blinked. "I apologize, sir. I can have someone." "No." His voice cut through hers like a knife through silk. "No, I need you to check it. Personally. Right now." Linda's smile widened. She set her phone down delicately, like she was settling in for a show. Khaliam knew what this was. She'd seen variations of it before, men who needed to see women on their knees, who turned service into submission, who couldn't enjoy a meal unless someone else was diminished first. It was a game, a ritual, a way of establishing that some people sat and some people crawled. She glanced toward the manager's station. Mr. Pringle stood there, a thin man with thinning hair and a spine made of wet paper. He was watching. His eyes met Khaliam's for half a second, then slid away like oil on water. His message was clear: do whatever they want. Chapter 2. The Wobbly Table. Sam Cooke leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, waiting. The restaurant had gone quiet in that particular way that meant everyone was pretending not to watch while watching everything. "Well," Sam's voice was light, almost playful. "Are you going to fix my table? Or do I need to speak to someone who actually cares about customer service?" Khaliam's jaw tightened. She could feel the weight of every eye in the room. The other servers, the kitchen staff peeking through the window, the diners at nearby tables who'd paused mid-conversation to witness the humiliation. She set her notepad down on the edge of the table and crouched. The floor was cold beneath her knees. The marble pressed through her work pants like ice. She ran her hand along the base of the table leg, checking for uneven ground, checking for anything that might actually explain the wobble, that she knew didn't exist. Above her, Linda's voice drifted down like poison honey. Look at that. So obedient. Like a little trained dog. Sam laughed, a short, sharp bark of sound that wasn't about humor. It was about dominance. Khaliam's hand stilled on the table leg. Her fingers pressed against the cold metal, and for just a moment, she let herself imagine standing up and walking away, letting them sit in their expensive clothes and their expensive cruelty, letting Mr. Pringle explain to them why their waitress had vanished. But she had rent due in 5 days. She had student loans that had followed her from her PhD program like ghosts. She had bills that didn't care about dignity. She stood up slowly, brushing off her knees with mechanical precision. The table is stable, sir, but I'd be happy to move you to another one if you'd prefer. Sam's smile vanished. His eyes went flat and cold. I don't want another table. I want this table, and I want it to stop wobbling. Sir, the table isn't. Are you calling me a liar? The question hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. Chapter 3. The Cowardly Manager. Mr. Pringle materialized at Khaliam's elbow like a ghost summoned by conflict. He was a small man who moved with the nervous energy of someone who'd spent his entire life avoiding confrontation, a manager who'd learned that the path of least resistance was always downhill, and he didn't care who he stepped on to get there. Is everything all right here? His voice was high, anxious, already apologetic. Sam didn't even look at him. Your waitress seems to think I'm making things up. She's calling me a liar in front of my fiancée. No, sir, Khaliam started. Khaliam. Mr. Pringle's hand landed on her shoulder, fingers digging in just slightly. Why don't you let me handle this? He turned to Sam with a smile that was all teeth and no warmth, a smile that promised anything, cost anything, meant nothing. Mr. Cook, I am so sorry for any confusion. Please, let me personally ensure your evening is perfect. Khaliam is one of our newer servers. She's still learning. I've been here 6 years, Khaliam said quietly. Mr. Pringle's fingers tightened on her shoulder. A warning. Why don't you go check on Table 7? Table 7 doesn't need. Now, Khaliam. But Sam held up a hand, and Mr. Pringle went silent like someone had flipped a switch. That's how power worked in places like this. Money didn't just talk, it commanded. No, Sam said slowly. I want her. She started this service. She's going to finish it. He leaned forward, elbows on the table, his smile returning like a predator baring its teeth. Unless she's not capable? Unless she's not qualified to serve customers at this level. Mr. Pringle's hand fell away from Khaliam's shoulder. He took a small step back, and in that motion, Khaliam understood exactly what was happening. She was being thrown to the wolves. She was the sacrifice that would save Mr. Pringle's tip, his customer satisfaction rating, his bonus at the end of the quarter. Of course she's qualified, Mr. Pringle said quickly. Khaliam, please take excellent care of Mr. Cook and his guest. Excellent care. He retreated like a rat abandoning a sinking ship. Chapter 4. The 1982 Vintage. Linda picked up the wine menu, her perfectly manicured nails clicking against the leather cover. She didn't look at it. She didn't need to. We'll have the 1982 Chateau Margaux. Khaliam's stomach dropped. The 1982 Margaux was the bottle in the restaurant. The showpiece, the trophy, the wine that lived in its own locked glass case behind the bar and came with a price tag that had 4 digits before the decimal point. It was the kind of bottle that only got ordered by people who wanted to prove something, usually to themselves. Of course, Khaliam said, her voice steady. I'll inform the sommelier. Wait. Sam's hand shot out, not touching her, but close enough that she could feel the heat of it hovering near her wrist. Do you know how much that bottle costs? Yes, sir. Say it. Khaliam's jaw tightened. $3,200. And what happens if you drop it? If your tired, shaking hands can't hold on to a bottle that costs more than you make in a month? Linda laughed, a bright, crystalline sound like breaking glass. Oh, I bet they take it out of her paycheck. Don't they? Isn't that how it works for the help? Sam's eyes never left Khaliam's face. Is that true? If you damage merchandise, do do you pay for it? The answer was complicated. The restaurant couldn't legally dock her wages without her permission, but they could fire her, could make her life hell, could ensure she never worked in a decent establishment again. The answer was that technically no, but practically yes. I won't drop it, Khaliam said. But if you did? Sam leaned back, spreading his arms wide like he owned not just the table but the entire room. If you did, that's your car, isn't it? Your rent for months. Your whole life, in one bottle. Must be terrifying, knowing you're one mistake away from losing everything. His smile was razors and ice. Bring us the bottle. And don't wobble. Chapter 5, The Language Shield. Khaliam walked toward the bar with her spine straight and her hands steady, even though her heart was hammering against her ribs like something caged and desperate. Behind her, she heard Linda's voice shift, the tone changing from English to something else, something fluid and sharp. Korean. Look at her. Stiff as a board. Sam's response came in the same language, casual, contemptuous. What did you expect? These people are all the same. Khaliam's hand tightened on the bar rail. She'd grown up in Atlanta, raised by a single mother who worked 3 jobs and still found time to enroll her daughter in Saturday Korean school. She'd spent summers in Seoul with her grandmother, learning to read classical texts, learning the difference between casual speech and formal speech, learning that language wasn't just words. It was power, it was identity, it was respect. She'd written her dissertation on sociolinguistic patterns in East Asian diplomatic discourse. And these 2 thought she was deaf. The bartender, Vincent, slid the bottle toward her with the kind of careful reverence reserved for explosives. You sure about this? No choice, Khaliam said quietly. They're predators, Vincent muttered. Everyone knows Cook. He's connected, real connected. Likes to make scenes, likes to sue, likes to ruin people for fun. Khaliam lifted the bottle. It was heavy, cold, worth more than everything she owned. Then I won't give him a reason. She walked back to table 12 with the bottle cradled in both hands. Behind her, she could hear the kitchen staff watching through the window, could feel the weight of every eye in the dining room. Linda's voice continued in Korean, louder now, performative. This restaurant has really gone downhill. Hiring waitresses like this. Sam laughed. Probably never went to college. She'll carry plates her whole life. Khaliam set the bottle down on the table with the kind of controlled precision that came from years of practice. She didn't let her hands shake. She didn't let her face change. Not yet. Chapter 6, The Maze of Beef. Linda pushed the menu toward Khaliam without looking at her. I'll have the galbi, Jim. But I want it made with proper soy sauce fermentation. None of that commercial garbage. The beef needs to be simmered for exactly 8 hours at 82 degrees Celsius, not a degree higher, with Korean radish that's been aged for at least 3 months. And the jujubes need to be from Gyeonggi Province, harvested in October, with a Brix level of no less than 32. She rattled off the instructions in rapid-fire Korean, switching between formal and informal speech in ways that were deliberately jarring, using industry jargon that would confuse even most native speakers, adding impossible specifications that no kitchen could meet. It was a trap, a linguistic maze designed to make Khaliam stumble, to force her to admit she had no idea what was being said, to prove that she was exactly what they thought she was: uneducated, incompetent, invisible. Sam watched with the hungry anticipation of a man watching a car accident in slow motion. And Linda continued, her voice dripping with false sweetness. If your kitchen can't handle that level of precision, then perhaps you should just bring me a children's menu, since that's probably more your speed. The restaurant had gone completely silent. Every server had stopped moving. Every diner had stopped eating. Even the soft classical music playing through the speakers seemed to have faded into nothing. This was the moment. This was where Khaliam was supposed to crack. Instead, she straightened her spine. She set her notepad down. And when she spoke, her voice was silk over steel, each syllable precisely placed, her Korean shifting into the ultra-formal register used in royal courts and diplomatic chambers. The kind of speech that turned every word into ceremony. Your Majesty, she began, using a form of address so formal it was almost archaic. Allow me to humbly inquire. Chapter 7, The Gavel Snap. Linda's face went blank. Sam's smile flickered like a candle in wind. Khaliam continued in the same flawlessly formal register, her pronunciation perfect, her grammar textbook precise. Regarding the preparation method you mentioned for the galbijim, there are several points I must respectfully correct. She paused, letting the silence stretch, letting them understand that she'd heard everything. 6. First, authentic Korean soy sauce fermentation takes a minimum of 6 months. And if you're referring to traditional rather than commercial methods, 1 year is standard. Linda's mouth opened, then closed. 82, 1995. 82. And the ideal cooking temperature for galbijim is not 82 degrees Celsius, but between 90 and 95 degrees. At 82 degrees, the collagen in the meat won't break down properly, leaving a tough texture. Sam's hand had frozen halfway to his wine glass. Finally, Khaliam said, her voice gentle but unyielding, 32, 35, 40. The bricks level of Gyeonggi Province jujubes is not 32, but between 35 and 40. Perhaps you've confused them with jujubes from another region. She picked up her notepad again, pen poised, her expression returning to that mask of professional neutrality. But now it wasn't a mask of invisibility. It was a mask of absolute, unshakable control. Therefore, she concluded, still in that royal register, shall I convey the proper preparation method to the kitchen for you? The silence that followed was geological. Chapter 8, The Shadow Chairman. Then, from a corner table that Khaliam had barely registered, a chair scraped back. A man stood up. He was in his 70s, maybe, with silver hair combed back from a face that had the kind of weathered dignity that comes from a lifetime of earned respect. His suit was impeccable but understated, his movements precise, and when he crossed the dining room toward table 12, every single person in the restaurant turned to watch. Sam and Linda didn't see him coming. They were too busy staring at Khaliam like she'd just sprouted wings. The man stopped beside their table. When he spoke, his Korean was the same formal register Khaliam had used. The speech of someone who'd spent time in actual royal courts, in actual diplomatic chambers. Excuse me. Sam looked up, startled. Who? I am Chairman Park. The name hit the table like a bomb. Chairman Park. The tech mogul. The philanthropist. The man who'd been photographed with 3 different presidents and had a building at Stanford named after him. Sam's face went white. I came here tonight hoping to enjoy a quiet meal, Chairman Park continued, his voice soft but carrying through the silent restaurant like a gavel. But I couldn't sit quietly while watching my culture being embarrassed like this. He turned to Khaliam, and his expression softened. Where did you study Korean? 1. Seoul National University for 1 year, and then my doctoral program in the United States, Khaliam said quietly. I majored in sociolinguistics. Chairman Park nodded slowly, then turned back to Sam and Linda. When he spoke again, his voice had gone cold. You are a disgrace to our culture. Sir, Sam started in English. Be silent. Chairman Park switched to English now, and somehow that made it worse. You come to this restaurant. You wear expensive clothes. You throw money around like it makes you important. And then you use our language, the language of my ancestors, the language this young woman worked years to master with respect. You use it as a weapon to humiliate someone you think can't defend herself. He leaned down, placing both hands on their table. That's not power. That's cowardice. Linda's face had gone from pale to red. You don't know who he is. I know exactly who he is. Chairman Park's smile was razor-thin. Sam Cook, second son of the Cook family. The disappointment. The one who got sent to America because the family business in Seoul didn't want him. He straightened up. And I know your father. We served on a board together 15 years ago. Shall I give him a call? Let him know how his son is representing the family name abroad. Sam's hand trembled as he reached for his wine glass. He didn't drink from it. He just held it, like he needed something to grip. "Eat your meal," Chairman Park said quietly. "In silence. And when you're done, you'll leave this woman a tip that reflects not the service she provided, because that was flawless, but the education she just gave you for free." He turned to Khaliam and switched back to Korean, his voice gentle. "You've worked hard." Then, in English, "I'm sorry you had to deal with this." He returned to his table, and the restaurant slowly, carefully, began to breathe again. Chapter 9. Losing Face. Khaliam stood at table 12 with her notepad and pen waiting. Her hands were steady now. Her spine was straight. Everything in her posture said, "I'm still your server." "Your move." Sam wouldn't look at her. His eyes were fixed on the tablecloth like it held the secrets of the universe. Linda had gone completely silent, her phone abandoned on the table, her expression frozen somewhere between humiliation and rage. "Would you still like the galbi, Jim?" Khaliam asked in English, her voice professionally neutral. "Or would you prefer something else from the menu?" "Just bring us the filet mignon," Sam muttered. "Both of us. Medium rare. Nothing else." "Of course, sir." She walked away with her head high, and as she passed the other server's station, Vincent gave her a small, secret thumbs up. Through the kitchen window, she could see the line cooks watching, could see their expressions of stunned respect. Table 12 ate their meal in complete silence. They didn't send anything back. They didn't complain. They didn't speak to each other. They ate like prisoners, mechanically, joylessly, with all the power and confidence drained out of them like someone had pulled a plug. When they finally left, Sam placed $500 bills on the table without a word. He didn't wait for change. He didn't make eye contact. He just walked out with Linda trailing behind him, and the restaurant exhaled like it had been holding its breath for an hour. Mr. Pringle appeared at Khaliam's elbow, his face flushed, his eyes bright with the kind of nervous excitement of someone who'd just witnessed a miracle and wasn't sure if they should be grateful or afraid. That was. He couldn't seem to finish the sentence. "Chairman Park spoke to me on his way out. He left his card. For you." He held out a cream-colored business card with embossed lettering. Khaliam took it carefully. "If you're ever interested in translating for international delegations, call me. Chairman Park." He also, Mr. Pringle added, his voice dropping to a whisper, left a $5,000 tip on his own meal, and specified that it go directly to you. Khaliam stared at the bills on table 12, then at the card in her hand, then at Mr. Pringle's face. "I want to apologize," Mr. Pringle said quickly, "for earlier. I should have supported you. I should have." "Yes," Khaliam said simply. "You should have." She picked up the money from table 12, folded it carefully, and put it in her apron. Then she walked to the back room, hung up her apron, and stood in the small, fluorescent-lit space where the servers kept their belongings. Her hands were shaking now. Now that it was over, now that the adrenaline was fading, her whole body was trembling like a leaf in wind. But she was smiling. Chapter 10. The UN Plaza. 3 years later. Dr. Khaliam Moore adjusted her earpiece and looked out across the conference room at the United Nations Plaza. The space was all glass and steel, with simultaneous translation booths lining the back wall and delegates from 40 countries seated in neat rows, their name placards gleaming under the recessed lighting. She was the lead translator for the East Asian Economic Summit now, her dissertation on sociolinguistic diplomacy having opened doors she'd barely imagined existed when she was carrying plates at the restaurant. Chairman Park had been true to his word. One phone call had led to an interview, which had led to a contract position, which had led to a full-time role at the State Department. She didn't carry plates anymore. Now she carried words between worlds, bridging languages and cultures with the same precision she'd once used to balance wine bottles and navigate predatory customers. Her assistant poked her head into the booth. "Dr. Moore, you have a message. Someone wants to speak with you after the session." "Who?" "Didn't say." but they're very insistent. Khaliam nodded, her attention already turning back to the delegates filing in. She slipped her earpiece back on and opened her translation notes. The session ran for 2 hours. Debates over trade agreements, discussions of tariff structures, the kind of complex diplomatic language that she'd spent years learning to parse and transmit with absolute accuracy. When it ended, she gathered her materials and stepped out of the booth. A man was waiting in the hallway. He was thinner than she remembered, his suit less expensive, his eyes less cruel and more exhausted. Haunted. Sam Cooke. He looked up when she approached, and something flickered across his face. Recognition, shame, fear, all tangled together. "Dr. Moore," he said quietly. "Mr. Cooke." Her voice was professionally neutral, the same tone she'd used 3 years ago when she'd asked him if he wanted water or wine. I don't expect you to talk to me," he said quickly. "I just wanted to. I saw your name in the summit program, and I had to." He stopped, swallowed hard. "I'm sorry. For what I did. For what we did." Khaliam studied him carefully. He looked like a man who'd lost a lot. Weight, certainly, but also something less tangible. Confidence. Power. The armor of cruelty that some people wear their whole lives until something finally cracks it open. "I heard you went to prison," she said. Sam nodded. "Racketeering charges. My father disowned me. Linda left within a month." He laughed, a bitter sound. "Turns out when you build your life on intimidation and family money, it all falls apart pretty fast when both of those things disappear." "I'm sorry," Khaliam said, and found that she meant it. "Don't be." Sam looked down at his hands. "I deserved worse than I got. I spent 20 months in a federal facility, and every single day, I thought about that night. About you. About what Chairman Park said." He looked up, and his eyes were wet. He was right. I was a coward. I am a coward. But I'm trying. I'm trying to be different. Khaliam was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Do you remember what you ordered that night?" Sam blinked. "What?" "Your meal. Do you remember what you ordered?" "Io filet mignon. Medium rare." "And do you remember how I brought it to you? Did I spit in it? Did I accidentally drop it? Did I give you anything less than perfect service, even after everything you'd done?" Sam shook his head slowly. "That's because I had dignity," Khaliam said quietly. "Not the kind you can buy or take away. Not the kind that comes from power. The kind that comes from knowing who you are, even when people treat you like you're nothing." She adjusted her briefcase on her shoulder. "I hope you find that for yourself. Really. Because without it, no amount of money or power will ever make you feel whole." She walked past him toward the elevator. "Dr. Moore," Sam called out. She turned. "Thank you," he said. "For the lesson. All of them." Khaliam nodded once, then stepped into the elevator. As the doors closed, she caught her own reflection in the polished steel. No longer the exhausted waitress in a worn uniform, no longer invisible, no longer voiceless. Dr. Khaliam Moore, translator, diplomat, survivor. She smiled. And that's how Khaliam Moore went from serving tables to serving nations, from being invisible in a luxury restaurant to being indispensable at the United Nations. She didn't just survive that night. She transformed it. She took every ounce of humiliation those predators tried to force on her and turned it into fuel for a future they could never have imagined. Because here's the truth. Dignity isn't something people can take from you. It's something you carry. And when you know who you are, really know it down to your bones, no amount of cruelty, no designer suit, no mafia connections can make you small. Sam Cooke learned that lesson in a federal prison cell. Khaliam Moore learned it long before she ever walked into that restaurant. And now she translates for world leaders. Now she bridges cultures and brokers understanding between nations. Now she's Dr. Khaliam Moore, and her voice, the one they tried to silence, echoes in rooms where history gets made. But here's what I need from you. If this story moved you, if it made you angry, made you cheer, made you feel something, then hit that like button right now. Let me know this resonated. Let me know you want more stories like this. Stories about underdogs who refuse to stay down, about quiet warriors who fight with intelligence instead of fists, about people who turn their pain into power. And subscribe, because I've got so many more stories like this waiting for you. Stories about revenge, redemption, justice, and people who refuse to be erased. Stories that will make you feel alive. Turn on notifications so you never miss the next chapter, the next battle, the next victory. And here's the big one. Comment below and tell me where you're watching from. Seriously, I want to know. Are you in New York, Lagos, Seoul, London, Tokyo? I want to say hello to every single one of you. I want to know how far these stories are traveling, how many countries, how many hearts. Drop your city, your country, your story in the comments. Tell me what you thought. Tell me which moment hit you hardest. Tell me if you've ever been underestimated like Khaliam. Tell me if you've ever had your own gavel snap moment. Because this isn't just my channel, it's our community. A place where we celebrate the fighters, the survivors, the ones who refuse to be broken.